Okay. The meeting will come to order, please. The notice requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act for this meeting have been satisfied. A copy of the annual meeting notice was sent to the press, the Downbeach Current, posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, on the municipal website, filed in the office of the municipal clerk. Would you please take a second, turn off all electronic equipment as we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Attention, salute. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Mayor Becker.
Here.
Commissioner Amadeo.
Here.
Commissioner Blumberg.
I am here.
First item on the agenda, we're going to have a promotion from Jenna Gatto, who is with Getting to Resilience, and she's going to give us a 9-minute and 59-second report.
I'm going to try to keep it to that close.
Thank you, Jenna. It's all yours.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jenna Gatto. I'm a Community Resiliency Specialist with the Jacques Cousteau Reserve in Tuckerton. I work with municipal leaders to help them understand and identify their vulnerabilities to coastal hazards. I had the privilege to work with leaders in the city of Margate, and we created a recommendation report for the city. It is currently still in draft form, so we're still waiting on some feedback before we can finalize the document, but I'm going to give you a little overview tonight. When we think about resilience at JC NEAR, we think of it as a process. We start with assessing the situation, planning, and then implementing those plans, going back, assessing to make sure that those implementations took hold and worked. If they didn't, replanning, re-implementing, and continuing through that cycle. When we started with the city of Margate, one of the first things we did in our meetings was look at coastal vulnerability mapping, so sea level rise maps for 1, 2, and 3 feet, storm surge maps for category 1 through 3, marsh migration maps, PFIR maps, and the sandy surge extent maps. The group that we met with was everyone from the land use planning to floodplain managers, emergency management, to elected officials. One of the things that I also do on the back end is try to look through and review as many municipal plans as I can get my hands on. So this is an example of some of the plans that I was able to review. In our meetings with the municipal leaders, we went through the Getting to Resilience process. If anybody is familiar with the Getting to Resilience tool, it was a questionnaire developed back in 2010 by a NOAA DEP fellow. We have since, JC NEAR has since taken it, put it online, made it an interactive tool with linkages to other programs like the Community Rating System, Hazard Mitigation, and Sustainable Jersey. The questionnaire has 5 sections: risk and vulnerability, public engagement, planning integration, disaster preparedness and recovery, and hazard mitigation implementation. All of those questions and sections link back to, again, the CRS program, FEMA's hazard mitigation, and Sustainable Jersey. Once we went through that questionnaire, I went and created a recommendation report. There are 6 categories: outreach, mitigation, municipal organization, FEMA mapping, Sustainable Jersey, and planning. Again, this report is still in draft form, so until I receive all of the feedback from the municipal leaders, some of these recommendations could change based on that feedback. So they're not quite finalized yet. Our first outreach recommendation is to quantify and catalog outreach programs as per CRS rating or regulations. So this is to help get as many points as you can in the outreach category in CRS. Our second was to develop a pre-flood plan for public information projects. So pre-flood planning includes things like messages about evacuation routes, shelter locations, after an event, not to enter a building without it being checked first, those sorts of messaging that you can pre-package, and then when an event happens, already have that package to be able to send out when it's necessary. The third, develop public presentations about flood zones, flooding risk, building recommendations, and et cetera, to be given annually. Margate did this kind of last year in the summertime. They had the storm preparedness storm floodwater management forum for residents here in the city and for surrounding areas. So that's an example of an annual meeting that could be done every year that you could possibly get CRS credits for, that helps to keep residents and businesses informed, so even in quiet times, they're prepared and they know what to do. Another outreach is to continue to update and maintain the flood protection information section of the city website and continue to make that link visible and available. This is something that Margate City already does a superb job at, so this is more of a recommendation to keep that up and not let it fall through the cracks, because you do get CRS points for that. To also create a hazard disclosure policy. So this was something that city staff had noted that real estate agents were already doing. So creating a hazard disclosure policy could be a way that the city could make sure that all of the insurance providers are able to give out the same sort of information, and all of the new incoming potential property owners are receiving the same thing, so to make it consistent. And then to consider putting up high water marks. So that was something that when we went through our meetings that the people involved in the meetings were interested in. So the recommendation includes some additional information from the National Weather Service about how you can get high water mark signs, and it's something that's starting to be done throughout the state, mostly up in Monmouth, but Ocean is starting to get interested, and we've had a few cities down in Atlantic County that are interested as well. Mitigation, continuing to work with Atlantic County to expand sheltering options. We know that Margate has a place that can shelter, but as the city is mostly entirely in a floodplain, there may be situations and events where that floodplain isn't a very safe option. So making sure that you have stuff worked out with the county and neighboring municipalities so that you have shelters available outside of the municipal boundaries as well. To create a detailed mitigation plans for areas that experience repetitive loss. That helps to create planning for future. You can look at new different ideas for what you can do for repetitive loss, whether that be acquisition, relocating, raising buildings to make them higher up, any of those things, but creating that plan, and it's something that you can put into your action worksheets for your hazard mitigation plan as well. And that recommendation works really well with this one as a possibility for what you can do in areas with repetitive loss, and also because this is Absecon Island and it's mostly built out. We don't have very many natural floodplains left, so if that becomes something with acquisition that you're interested in doing, you can get CRS credits for it. They help to absorb water and runoff, so they're both good for hazard mitigation and for extra points for saving money in CRS. Looking into becoming designated as a storm-ready community by the National Weather Service. So that's a community preparedness program that assists towns as they develop plans for a wide variety of severe weather events, gets you CRS points. Identifying, mapping, and keeping data on areas of coastal erosion and considering creating a coastal erosion protection program or instituting higher regulations. That helps, especially if you have erosion hotspots, to have a plan in place. So if you're looking at something like living shorelines or a hybrid between something living or engineered, that you have the details and the past history of those areas to be able to help get funding and to see what you're changing from the past to the future, or changing from the future back to what it was in the past. Focus on creating a dune system and reestablishing dune grass and other natural vegetation. So this recommendation is more so towards the fact that Margate already has students that go out and do dune plantings. So potentially boosting those activities, maybe having the kids go out more than once a year, bolstering the plantings with more variety, helping to create the dune system that way, working with the practices that Margate already has today. Transferring personal knowledge, documents, and other records of coastal storm and flooding event damages to digital format and place on a city computer drive. This is a really great idea in case, we have an event that's going on and maybe somebody's on vacation, you have all of their information, or maybe it's been 30 years since we had something and the people that were working in the community aren't there anymore. The new staff has access to that information. Or if you have personal knowledge of, flooding events or other events that can't be captured in mapping because it's more of a precipitation thing, those are the types of things that you would want to transfer and have collected so that all of the leaders in the municipality have access to it for furthering their own knowledge. Having city municipal officials participate in FEMA training courses. FEMA has training courses both online and in person. You can get CRS credits for it. Utilizing the Use Flood Exposure Mapping webinar, the hazard assessment tool on HAZUS to identify potential hazards, risks, and vulnerabilities to keep mapping information on file. That Flood Exposure Maps webinar helps teach you how to use the NOAA Coastal Flood Exposure Mapping platform. HAZUS helps you look at different types of mapping and how it affects your ratings, essentially. So just different tools that you can use to help be more prepared for the future. FEMA mapping recommendation, ensuring that the public is aware of FEMA map updates and utilizing the changes since last firm. So this is really to make sure that the information on the maps is understood by all municipal leaders and staff prior to discussions with the public, so that the correct information is being disseminated throughout the city and you're not getting mixed messages. Also adopting the latest version of FEMA's flood maps, continuing to strengthen elevation requirements on the flood damage prevention ordinance, and considering increasing freeboard requirements. Margate's already adopted a lot of these maps, so really just helping to keep going and staying ahead of the curve on that and not falling behind. Ensuring all flood maps are available on the city website, City Hall, and at the local library. So we know that people take information in differently. Some like to look at it online, some like to look at a hard copy, some it's easy for them to get into town hall, or it's easier for them to get into public library. So just making sure that access is available to everyone. Sustainable Jersey. We have the open space and the Municipal Blue Star program. The Municipal Blue Star program was introduced last year. It takes a whole lot of flooding sort of Sustainable Jersey credits to get there. So if you're interested in that, it's easier to start at it with that idea in mind instead of trying to back up your credits to get into the program. And then the open space plan. Margate City actually had an open space inventory within the Parks and Recreation section back in 2004. So if that section gets updated again, it could be something that you would be able to get points for, because those points are only good for 10 years. And obviously 2004 was more than 10 years ago. So it should be an easier one since it's already in that past plan. Planning recommendations, considering bolstering the continuity of operations plan. So the city already has one, but as we went through the process, we learned that there was some stuff that, though leaders and officials already know what they're doing, it's not necessarily written down, so just bolstering that with information that the people are already doing so that it has that captured. Identifying sea level rise as a hazard in town plans. So sea level rise has already been identified in the Atlantic County Hazard Mitigation Plan in the erosion section. It's something that is going on in our state. It's gotten into the Cape May County Plan and the Ocean County, Monmouth County, so it is picking up some momentum. So this is recommending that it go into the master plan for Margate City, other municipal planning documents, to make them all comprehensive and speak to each other. And then examining municipal master plan strategies and ordinances and considering rewriting sections to include some of the recommendations from the report. And that is the cover of the report. It is still in draft form. So like I said, all of those recommendations are still waiting for some feedback before we can finalize, so they may be tweaked or changed a little bit, and still open for the opportunity that if you're seeing things or not seeing things in there that you would like me to include, that we can include it. So that is my summary, and I'm not sure who's next. You want me to take questions?
Yeah, do you have any various predictive levels, being that it's so timely today? It's just be interesting to show the commissioners and the public.
Sure.
Some of them, even though they live here and they're pretty knowledgeable about it, just where our most vulnerable areas are and how vulnerable they could be.
Sure. I'm pulling that up right now. Sorry, I'm going over my 10 minutes definitely with this. Oop.
What she's doing is, it's just an example of all of the ability that we have through mapping that's been done by Rutgers and others to have this information that I think our staff was astonished how much information is available through the mapping efforts that have taken place.
That's as far as we go, and I'm sorry for this part because I've used both hands and now I use the mic. So this is MJ Flood Mapper. It's a totally available tool online for anyone who can Google it and sometimes you can get to it. It's a website that was designed by Rutgers University. It's based off of the NOAA platform, but it has user-specific data in it, so it's a little bit more specific than the NOAA Sea Level Rise Viewer. This will actually be updated soon to a new platform, the Sea Level Rise Viewer 2.0. So if you go into it in a couple of weeks and it looks a little different, that's because we are about to go through a platform upgrade. So I'm going to switch over to facilities. It's the same as Sea Level Rise. It just shows your municipal facilities, evacuation routes, police stations, fire halls, and your elementary schools. So on this platform, we're able to look at sea level rise 1 through 6 feet. Thing to keep in mind is that all of those projections are put over top of your mean high water. So when you're thinking of your higher of your 2 daily tides, these are putting that water on top of that. So the highest extreme that you can get. So at 1 foot, we don't see too many issues with or vulnerabilities in the city. Most of it is along the back bay. At 2 feet, we start to see a little bit more in the southern end of the city and along these back areas here. We don't have it up there yet. And then at 3 feet, we have quite a bit of potential vulnerability for flooding along the southern end, the back bay areas, and then coming down, I believe that's Winchester Avenue right there, in from Ventnor. So again, to keep in mind that that's 3 feet on top of your high water. Sea level rise is not a thing that's going to happen tomorrow. It's a thing that's progressively going to happen over time. At Rutgers right now, we use the Miller and Kopp projections, which put us at about 1.5 feet of sea level rise by 2050, 3.5 by 2100. Those are the mid-range projections, which means there's a greater than 80 or 50% chance that that's going to happen. Those projections obviously are changing all the time, and we're actually convening a science panel of experts at the end of this year to set some state numbers and to really hone in on what numbers we want to use throughout the state. So thinking about that 3 feet, you're looking at potentially around a 2100, if not sooner living. Again, these vulnerabilities are based on conditions as they are now. So if you were to do mitigation projects, put in, living shorelines, levees, any of those sorts of things, this map's not going to capture those options because they're not there yet and it's run on current LiDAR data. It also doesn't take into consideration coastal influences, so tides, erosion, all of that stuff, which over time will have an input on that. This is just showing as is conditions as if it were happening to the area as it exactly is today. So another really cool thing that this mapping platform can do is look at flooding for storm surge. It has your P-firms. And so this right now is looking at a / category 1. But what this model is looking at the worst possible case scenario. So as coastal residents, we understand that hurricanes have different tracks. We've all been following the current one right now and paying attention to what that one's going to do. So this is looking at as if the winds were coming from every possible direction and pushing water up as far as it possibly could under that condition. So it's not looking at, if a strike were to come in north and hit Brigantine or hit south in Wildwood or hit New York City. It's looking at every potential track and wind coming from every single direction. So that would be our Cat 1. The Cat 2 looks like this, and I guess I should have said the blue water was water at 0 to 3 feet. We'll go back, which is above ground level. So anywhere that you're standing in that blue section, it could be anywhere from at your toes to 3 feet is about like here on me. The yellow is 3 to 6 feet, so anywhere from about here to just over my head. Orange is 6 to 9, which is well over my head, and red is over 9 feet. So those are conditions at ground level and above. It's not depth it's not looking at it from the bay in, I guess is a way to say that. So at Cat 2, we can see that there aren't very many places that are less than 6 feet. Most of it is along the ocean front, which makes sense. We have our historical dunes there. The land is a little higher over there before we developed on them. So that is going to be higher in elevation. And then at a Cat 3, you really definitely need to be off the island. So you wouldn't want to be here. Pretty much everywhere is above 9 feet, with the exception of that spot up in the northeast corner near Ventnor. And which is why it's so important to listen to your emergency management officials when they tell you to evacuate. So we tend to not, we don't have a Cat 5 on here because it's not sustainable at this day and age for a Cat 5 to make it this far north. Hopefully we're not proved wrong over the weekend, but historically they've never made it this far north, and it's very rare that a Cat 4 can get up here. So, and that essentially is just going to show you a red map. So. Is there anything else, Rich, that you would like me to show?
Anyone else have? No, I'm fine. I was just asking if anyone else had any comments. Thank you, Janet. Very, very good. Thank you very much.
See that more.
Mayor, just so the commissioners know and the public that, this is not the end, this is the beginning of a process, but because we're starting the master plan review immediately after 5 o'clock tonight, if we award those contracts, this fits in wonderfully well as a beginning resource as we move toward our next 6 months in our master plan. In addition to that, Jen and I are going to talk next week, and I think that there would be interest in a small group of people meeting, or various small groups of people, where she could make a more in-depth presentation, and then if there's an interest from that, ultimately we could do another kind of a public presentation at a better venue where it's easier to see and hear. So there's a lot of possibilities yet on the kinds of information that's here presented tonight in a very, very short overview. And one of the things that I would like to talk to Commissioner Amadeo about, and our Emergency Management Director, Jerry, is maybe getting together our emergency team and as one of the small groups, just so that there's people with common interests that can ask the questions that pertain to their particular interest. So that's where we're going. This is not the end of it, and I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood that.
Thank you, Rich. And thank you again, Jenna. It was very, very good. We're going to move on with the meeting, and the next item would be Mr. Deeney, shared service arrangement with the Margate City Library.
As the commissioners know, we've had discussions, a number of us, off and on over the last year as we were planning the redo of the Washington Avenue building. And the library, since Storm Sandy, The Library Commission has merged with, or had the Historic Commission, is actually, the Historic Group has merged with the library. And a lot of the new facility, as it's refurbished at Washington Avenue, is going to be used by the library in conjunction with the former Historic Commission. In addition, the library has always talked about being able to use some space in this building on the second floor. And there's a specific proposal, a copy of which I sent to you a week or two ago, for the use of 2 particular rooms on the second floor. We showed the library staff the various rooms that are up there, and Dr. Patina, who's the president of the Library Commission, sent an email requesting the use of 2 particular rooms. Fred Verna and I and others have accompanied the library board when we went through those rooms, and I think we could accommodate them in a rather short period of time. They would like to be able to use those rooms beginning within the next 30 days. What I'm bringing in front of you to either make a decision tonight or make a decision soon on whether that's acceptable to you in the short run, with the idea that when we finish the building on Washington Avenue, that we'll enter into some kind of a shared services agreement with the Library Commission and the city for use of facilities, so that it's clear whose responsibilities are whom. And in effect, it'll be a lease to the Library Commission, but it'll be a true shared service, which is the kind of things people talk about, and we do, and sometimes we don't recognize it for what it is as a shared service. So that's on the table, and if you want to have a discussion, fine. If you want to get back to me, fine. If you want to do it next meeting, fine.
We're all fine with it, Rich.
You're all good with it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Good. Do you have anything else, Rich?
That's all that's on the agenda, but I do have another item to bring up if it's the appropriate time. Just give me 1 second. We have received notice formally from an attorney representing the state of New Jersey that they have finished making appraisal of our beachfront property with the intent of filing for eminent domain and taking our beachfront property, which is a subject that we've been talking about for the last 18 months. You will last remember that the last thing that's of importance that's happened in this saga happened last January when the city took the state to federal court and was able to prevail that the state did not follow its own regulations with respect to eminent domain and tried to sidetrack those and take our property from us. We prevailed in federal court, and at that time, the Army Corps of Engineers had already awarded a contract on the representation of the state that it had our property, and in fact, it did not have our property. We still have our property. They have no easement for the use of our property. At that time, the state said in federal court that they expected in April to be able to remedy that situation by getting an appraiser to come and appraise our property and then notify us and then follow the procedure, which requires a 14-day notice. We have now received our 14-day notice 9 months later. What that means is that we are in this negotiation process, although there is no active negotiation. They've offered us $29,000 for the use of all of our property on the beachfront and whatever disruption that might be at whatever times they choose it to be, to be able to do a beach fill project. Not only a beach fill project, but the particular beach fill project that they have been talking about doing for some 20 years, because the data on which they are basing this beachfront project is 20 years old. Now, that's the report at this point. We are in this process. What is likely to happen next is that the state will actually file an action in court to say that they have not been able to come to an agreement on a price for the property, and they will ask that the court to approve eminent domain. We are going into, likely going into closed session after we're scheduled to after the 5 o'clock meeting, or as part of the end of the 5 o'clock meeting, to discuss specifically what our response will be. I can tell you that I have been in touch with our attorneys and have advised the commissioners as we've gone along over the last 2-week period, and we're prepared to discuss and decide later on what action we may or may not take should the state file, which we expect they will do before the end of this month. So that's the public report at this time. It's not the end, it's not the beginning, but it's a very important step that we expect the state to make, and it'll be a very important response that we expect to make. I can tell you that, as the public knows, there was a referendum over a year ago in which there was an advisory question about the costs of litigation. I can tell you to date that since that referendum, we've paid our special attorney approximately, and it's to date, we will have paid, when we approved the voucher tonight, about $130,000. In addition to that, we paid $3,000 for an engineering report. So we're considerably below the $200,000 yet, and that's not a magic number, but it's a number that everybody has in their mind. And that I can also tell you that I've been in contact with our attorneys, and I have an assurance that in order to get to the next step, it will still cost considerably less than the full $200,000 that we have. So for those that are thinking about it from a cost standpoint, there are still steps in this process, and this next cost is not overwhelmingly significant because it will not be any final determination necessarily, but it will certainly, if we oppose the state, the next step would be a court action to say whether they automatically get eminent domain or whether there's sufficient cause to take a step backward and make the state prove that the methodology that they're using is not arbitrary. In other words, the state presumably has a right to take property for definite public purposes. One of those public purposes in the broad sense is protection of all of us. So if you take it on the surface, they have a right for eminent domain, but they don't have a right for eminent domain to just do what they want. They have a right to be able to they have to be able to show that that public property is essential, and it's the only way they can achieve the public purpose that they're trying to undertake. So that's the basis of what the discussion might be before a judge. Any questions?
I'm good. John?
No, awesome.
No.
Thanks, Rich.
Thank you, Rich. Very well done. Anything else, Rich?
I might, but we can go around and
Okay.
I'll
All right,
find
we
out.
will do department head reports. Jimmy, when you want to start today?
Good evening. I guess after that report, everybody wants to raise their house, right? I expect about 10 permits, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 permits for raising your house tomorrow to show up in my office, right? We're going around to all the construction sites to notify people, the construction guys, to button up their sites, try to get the dumpsters out of town, move any scaffolding, anything that may fly due to the heavy winds or possible flooding event if we have one. This way we don't have, we'll have minimal damage from construction debris or anything that may come into the streets, and then, which would cause our scuppers to become flooded or possibly blocked. So I think the main event is on Friday or Saturday, it looks like. So hoping for a very quiet weekend. I'm hoping. That's all I have to report.
Thank you, Jim. Roger?
Just, Mayor, that I fully support this resolution 174 that you have before you to select Remington Vernon Wahlberg to do these 4 phases, the 4 sections of Phase 2 of the Sandy planning grants. We're going to get a new master plan, we're going to get a new zoning ordinance, an economic development plan, and a sustainability plan, and these are exciting reports. Jenna's presentation, the Rutgers study, is a tremendous study, as Rich says, which will give a lot of raw material to the master planning process and will enrich the master plan beyond ordinary to something very special. So I'm looking forward to the next several months of master planning and recommendations for the future of the city. And we're very, very busy in the zoning department.
Good. Johanna, do you have anything?
Nothing to report.
Okay. Mr. Abbott?
We had a trip to Trenton, not last Monday, but the Monday before that, and met with Deputy Commissioner Ginger Kopkash, Commissioner Amadeo, myself, Jim Rotella, Ed Wahlberg, Senator Whalen, and ongoing efforts to get dredging to occur in the back bays of Margate, and incidentally to help just about all these seashore communities in New Jersey. She was very receptive to some of our ideas. Fortunately, she and her staff agreed that the resiliency grant of $125,000 could be devoted towards studying areas for us to put our dredge spoils. I know that's not the politically correct word. What should I call that? Dredge material? Residuals. That's it, residuals. That's that back bay mud that we're trying to move over and get dredged. It was positive. We have Dr. Stuart Farrell on board, who I think everybody in the state greatly respects his knowledge and wisdom on these topics. And so we are inching forward. We're making progress. It's still going to be a long, tough fight, but we're moving forward. As far as anything else, I think the selection of the new team, Stu, is extremely familiar with Margate, and we all look forward to working with him. This master plan and zoning ordinance revision will dovetail into our flood elevation issues that we're working on, which Stu is very familiar with because he helped us write that flood prevention ordinance and participated at great length of that. That's a critical issue that all seashore communities are facing as I speak with this hurricane coming. The design and the factors to try to mitigate flood damage and try to keep our flood insurance rates as low as possible. That's what we're working towards. So that's basically all I have, Mayor, for now.
Thank you, Scott. Rich?
Yes, I have a recommendation to the commissioners and to the solicitor, and I think we need an opinion of the solicitor, and I haven't asked him yet, so this is a surprise, but it's not a very big thing. Ordinance 13, 2015 is on the agenda for this 5 o'clock meeting. It's second reading, and my suggestion is that we eliminate the specific times that Public Works now picks up carpet, or is going to be able to pick up carpet and padding, and just put in there general language like at dates and times as designated by the Department of Public Works. What that will do is will prevent us from having to come back here each time when a time period is changed, maybe for the summer or the winter or some other time. It's just general language. And the Public Works Commissioner and the Public Works Director can decide what those times and dates are. And unless the solicitor thinks that that language is so sufficient that it would require advertising again, which I don't believe it would, it's a minor change to the ordinance, then you would be able to pass it after public hearing and second reading. If the solicitor should determine that that's a significant change to the intent of the ordinance, then you would have to re-advertise and postpone that or consider it the way it's written.
No, I think we can move forward. That's a minor change. I'm not really sure why we went to 1 and 3 o'clock. No, let's leave it so that the Director of Public Works and the Commissioner of that department and City Administrator can pick that time.
You okay with that?
Because it's certainly going to be different winter from summer. So we'll go over that wording, and I think I caught it at date and times as may be designated by the Public Works Department.
Okay. And
That's the only change.
we're all
It's very
fine with
minimal.
that. Okay.
You're
Thank you.
right.
I'm sorry to bring that up at this time. I don't like to do that, but it just came to my attention at
It's all right, Ed.
afternoon.
Rich, I can hit that one.
Okay.
It's all-
Thank you for that, Rich. Good idea.
One additional, I'd like to acknowledge a letter that came in. It was presented to me today from a citizen who commends our emergency services. The first paragraph says, again, Margate's finest came to the rescue. Within minutes of receiving a 911 call to the Margate Police Department, a coordinated effort was set into place involving the city fire and police departments and EMS services that saved my father's life. And we need to continue to acknowledge the fine services that we have by having 24 hours, 7 day a week, professional, well-trained men and women who respond to really our most significant emergencies, which are those that happen with very short notice. As important as all of us are in safety, public safety, and what we're here for, generally public safety and public welfare, there's nothing more important than life-saving efforts. So this is to acknowledge their good work, and was signed by a gentleman named Kirk Finkenhauer. Some of you may know him.
Thank you again, Rich. Lisa?
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Couple things. Met with the JIF Finance Committee yesterday, and at last month's JIF's Executive Committee meeting, they approved and authorized the release of $1,750,000 worth of dividends to the member towns, and out of that, Margate will be receiving a dividend of $16,827. In addition to that, we discussed a proposed budget for the 2016 year for the JIF. As it stands right now, overall, there is a 1.9% increase to the overall budget. However, what that means to Margate is I'm anticipating maybe our budget for that will remain flat, or we may even have a slight decrease. And the reason being that approximately 50% of what comprises that budget is the loss funding, how much we need to fund for claims. And because of our good loss ratio with the JIF, which is approximately 72%, they are recommending a 10% decrease in our loss funding. So when you combine the decrease with that and the overall increase with the admin costs and the other costs involved, I think we'll either remain flat or have a slight decrease for 2016, which is good news, but I will keep you updated when that budget is approved at the JIF meeting. Also, I just want to remind everyone, our health fair is October 16th here in conjunction with Ventnor and Longport. It's moving along. It should be a very an excellent event. Hopefully, it'll be well received, and I just ask again that the department heads encourage all their employees to participate in that. I also ask that everybody encourage their employees to attend our meeting for our open enrollment next week on October 6th. The representative from the state will be here from 9:30 till 10:30, only for 1 hour, to discuss changes within the plan designs of the state. And right now, our health broker is going to be shopping the market to see if there is a better option for us in the way of health coverage. And we requested a couple months ago our claims experience from the state. I followed up today, and we have not received that as of yet, but I was told that we would be getting it within a week or two, and then our broker will do their due diligence and shop the market. I'll keep you posted on that. Let's see. On the agenda for your consideration is Ordinance 14-2015, amending our claims approval process. After reviewing this, I had spoken to Rich about it because much of the language in there was outdated due to, the retirement of our clerk, and the city, when this was initially written, I think, did not have a full-time CFO. So we're basically, the main reason for this is establishing the claims approval and the preparation and signing of the checks. One item in particular, which Rich had asked me about, was the establishment of the payroll account. As it stands right now with the wording, I think it's fine. We do at our reorg meeting every January, we approve our cash management plan and the authorized signatories on the various accounts. So I don't think any further action other than this ordinance amendment needs to be taken. And currently, the signers on the majority of the checks are myself and the mayor. Of course, the municipal court and the building department, the department heads are authorized as signers on those accounts. Let me see. Also, it's time to redo the best practice survey for 2015 that's issued by the state. The due date, I believe, is the end of the month. So I asked that a discussion be placed on the agenda for October 15th so that the commissioners have a chance to discuss this. I started to go through the questions. I have not completed the survey yet. I will submit a draft to everyone for your review, and then from that point, it just needs to be placed on an agenda, and then it needs to be certified by myself as the CFO and the city clerk. The questions are the same as last year, except for 5 new questions. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Chief Devasso?
Mayor and Commissioners, the Fire Department and Beach Patrol are actively preparing in case we get this storm with equipment, staffing, planning, and hopefully it's planning for the worst and hoping for the best. I just wanted to make notice also that October 4th through the 10th is Fire Prevention Week. The fire department will be in our schools, at our daycare centers, the Senior Citizens Pavilion, doing demonstrations, having discussions with the students and the people. And this year's message is, hear the beep where you sleep, obviously in reference to your smoke detectors. So just a reminder to everyone that it is Fire Prevention Week, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Tony. Frank?
This past weekend was the Fall Fun Fest at the Bay. We assisted them, the Public Works Department. It was a great weekend. I believe it was highly successful. And our staff worked very good with the Fall Fun Fest committee. We're also preparing for the hurricane. We closed all our handicap entrances on the beach front, We've taken down our flower baskets along our streetscape. The flags are down. We've made sandbags. We're handing out sandbags tomorrow morning, starting at 8 o'clock at the Public Works Complex on Benson and Winchester Avenue. We also, we're taking a look at how much we charge for installation of a new water meter by a contractor or a private house owner. At this point, we charge $300 for the installation, but through the years, the price of everything of how they went up, we believe that we should change our ordinance from $300 to $800 because of the price of meters has doubled, the price of the setter that it sits in has doubled, the crock that it's in also has doubled. So I would like to present it to our solicitor and propose that we change the ordinance from $300 to $800. That's all I have.
Thank you, Frank. Ed?
Excuse me. Okay, I want to go on over the projects that are currently under construction. We have the Union Avenue Municipal Building. The boilers are installed and the associated plumbing is being connected. The City Hall repurposing, Washington Avenue, there's several of the contractors are working there. The geothermal wells being re-drilled, the electrical contractors on site, structural contractor. So that's moving along. They've got some good momentum finally going there. Municipal building, Union Avenue, emergency generators. The foundation work is underway, and the associated electrical components are being installed. That project's about 50% complete. The Decatur Avenue vehicle ramp, a pre-construction meeting was held in August. We had asked them to hold off until October to start construction there, so they're looking to begin mid-October. Well number 9, same thing. We asked them to hold off until the end of our season, so they're going to begin work in mid-October on the redevelopment of well 9. The Venter Avenue Parkway irrigation system, that's approximately 40% complete. The NJEDA, the streetscape program, they have started that, and the first block that they are doing is at Benson to Decatur in front of the bank. So the old work has been pulled out. They're pouring the concrete. Obviously, they can't work now, but they're moving. The South Jersey gas projects, phases 1, 2, and 3, which was Lantier Construction, they have their paving contractor in. They're approximately 70% complete their paving. Been moving very, very nicely, and the product is very nice. So, phases 4, 5, and 6. Kylie was the contractor. They currently are doing the abandonment of the old mains, the connection of the new mains. They anticipate starting their paving restoration October 12th. Phases 7 to 11, which is essentially the remainder of the city that has not been done. Kylie has started installing gas main on Atlantic Avenue from Fredericksburg to Argyle, and Lantier has begun replacing the main on Monmouth Avenue. There are the 2014 and 2013 beach access, which is Jefferson Avenue and Frontenac Avenue. These are our handicap access. We took bids on the 13, and we're requesting that they be rejected, and we are going to bid both of these projects as one for several reasons: economy of scale, and the community development block grant people have asked us to step up our process. We currently have another application in waiting for funding, and the sooner we utilize these funds, the better it looks. So we're going to go out to bid, hopefully go out to bid on October 9th, open the bids on the 21st, and both these projects can work through the winter. There's really no weather restrictions. And I believe That is, we're looking to do the exterior painting of the Gladstone Avenue water tank. We did the interior last year, and we want to go out to bid now for the exterior, and we would like to put that out to bid on the 9th and receive on November 5th, with that work being done in the spring. Okay, well number 9 has to get done first, and we can only take certain portions of our water system down at any one time. We'll take well number 9 down first, get that done in the spring, then we could take that tank offline to paint it. I believe that's it.
And thank you, Ed. Mari, do you have anything to say?
Yes, I do. I have two things, as a matter of fact. First, I want to publicly thank the MBA team for the great job they did with Fun Fest. Most of us just go and enjoy the day and enjoy the crafts and don't realize the amount of time and energy and effort that goes into putting on that event. And this year was better than ever as far as I'm concerned. So I wanted to thank the MBA team, all the volunteers, and all the city departments that have a hand in making that a successful weekend. And Mike, thank you for the weather. No, that might have been John. We had a good day. We had a good weekend.
Great.
Secondly, I want to thank Rich and Fred for the job and the time that they've put in with the library. This shared services agreement that we're hopefully going to enter into with the library, not only will it save us money, it accomplishes a couple of other things. We're going to be the library will be able to provide better service to the community. They off-site store a lot of old volumes that they can't fit in the library, and people ask for them on a regular basis. The library now has to drive out to EHT, where they're storing these volumes, and pick them up and bring them back, and they do that. Now people will either be able to come here, or the library will be able to retrieve them here upstairs. And in addition, we're going to be, utilizing space here that we have in this building. So it's the first step in filling up, some of the vacant space that we have here in the school. So, Rich, thank you, and Fred for working with the library. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. As I normally do, missed you, Fred. I'm sorry. Do you have anything to report today?
I'll take this opportunity to say something. Knowing that the library is going to use some of the facilities here, the rooms upstairs will need a little bit of renovating work, not a lot, but the space that they want, I think, will accomplish for them a great deal of savings, number one, but there will be some renovating work that needs to be done upstairs. And October not only is Fire Prevention Week, but it's also Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and I wear it on my sleeve. And we shouldn't forget, ladies, make sure you get checked. And gentlemen, you're also susceptible. So with that said, that's all I have.
Thank you, Fred, and I apologize. John?
You're forgiven, Mayor. I just want to pick up from what Maury had mentioned about our Bayfest this past week, and what a great event and what a great team effort. And it's almost like it's seamless, and the weather really cooperated. And as a result, I think the weather really helped us, because I did talk to Ed early on the day on Saturday, and as we took the jitney from our house down, traffic was backed up for 6 blocks before we got to Benson Avenue. So it did turn out to be a great event, great time for Margate, and very much appreciate all the work and all the cooperation that the city employees and all the departments gave. The other thing I want to mention, Jenna was here earlier, and I still see some of our Sustainable Margate team here present. Naturally, I really appreciate Jenna's passion and her work, and I see it to be very important as we move forward, as Roger mentioned earlier, with our master plan, as in the 5 o'clock hour, we hopefully will award the contract for our new master plan. So I think in cooperation and the recommendation that our business administrator mentioned earlier, that we put a team together, I think that we can work collaboratively and get a lot accomplished. The other thing I forgot to mention, and it was an observation I had Saturday at the Bayfest and Sunday, as I stood around the cop tank program where they raised, I think, $6,000 or $7,000 for breast cancer awareness. They outdid last year. I know that MBA gave $1,000 last year, but I think just the participation this year was better. And what was so disappointing, and he's not here to hear this, was our sergeants, our lieutenants, and our rank and file police made more money than our chief did. Our chief made the money last year. So it shows that, you know, that they were out there. They weren't targeting the chief. They were targeting our rank and file police officers and our sergeants and our lieutenants. And lastly, again, you heard for our residents that preparations and works for what the upcoming event may or may not be. Just be assured that there will be robocalls to the residents, the taxpayers of the state, of the city, as we are notified by the state and county emergency management. And I know that our chief of our fire department, chief of our police department, Mr. Greenberg, our emergency manager, and even our deputy fire chief is here. We have a scheduled meeting with emergency personnel tomorrow at 11 a.m. to discuss our options and get a game plan together, which has always been seamless again here in the city of Margate because of our professionals. Thank you.
Well, they just stole all my thunder, I guess.
That's what I tried.
I have a personal confession. Ever since the Fun Fest started, those 2 days, I'm like a little kid. I just go spend hours, just walk up and down and talk to all the people and all that. It's such a wonderful thing. Ed, thank you very much for all you do. I really appreciate it. And to the public, be assured that we're doing whatever we can for storm preparation, and, you know, with God's help, we'll get through this. And at this point, we'll open up to public comment. There are 3 minutes for anything that was discussed here today. We got it, Fred.
Excuse me.
Our new toy.
A time clock. Hit the start button. Wow.
Let's go. Your name
I'm
and address.
Ellen Lichtenstein at 411 North Exeter Avenue. I'm here just to add to all the thanks to tell you, whoever was involved, our streets are looking great. It hasn't looked this great in so long. I'm so excited. Where they've been filling in after the work was done with the meter changing on my section of town, fabulous. Thank you.
Thank you.
You can get my 2.5 minutes.
I don't think you're allowed to do that.
Do I push the start again?
When he comes up, hit the start button.
This is
Go.
222 West Drive. As the solicitor so fondly called this brief contributions from the citizens the Sewell Rule, I will remind these people that you can stifle people, but there's always another 2 weeks to go. Following up on Mr. Deeney's remarks and that of Jenna's Rutgers study, I encourage this commission not to buy into pseudo or voodoo science concerning the dunes. The Army Corps itself has stated time and time again the maximum protection value is 45 minutes, 3/4 of an hour. And it goes by very fast. But when Mr. Deeney said that it's the only way to achieve a public purpose, the dunes are not the only way to achieve that public purpose. A master jetty at the end of Longport would create 2,000, maybe 3,000 feet of beaches, much as the Absecon Inlet Master Jetty has done. And that 3,000 feet of beach acts as an underground dunes where the ocean has to chop 3,000 feet of beach away before it reaches the bulkhead. So if you're pitching something, pitch something that actually works and is a one-time fix rather than a 50-year tie-in contract where the city can be on the hook for both the state contribution and the federal contribution. Don't buy into a tie-in contract. Even our esteemed solicitor would urge us not to do such a crazy thing. And in fact, when he was solicitor in Ventnor, he was gung-ho for a master jetty at Fredericksburg Avenue, but we defeated him in good time. But I would also urge, don't worry about it. You only have to sustain it for 3 minutes. Put cotton in your ears, Richard.
It's too loud. Stop yelling.
I don't yell. I speak in a moderate tone. Stop the clock.
Then why don't you back up?
I don't have to back up. I don't back up, back down, back away, back off. That's not in my nature, solicitor. You should know by now. But I'll have a public announcement. A public announcement. This Tuesday, October 6th at 7 p.m. in the Ventnor Lafayette School Auditorium, Dan Skeldon will be there preaching about dunes. And I want you people to be there preaching Master Jetty. And you know, when Longport got its money, they didn't talk about enhancing their beach. They talked about enhancing. I was interrupted, Mayor, and I'm going to finish my thought whether you like it or not.
Thoughts?
John?
Thoughts, plural. Longport invested in their rock jetties to reinforce the western tip and the northern tip of the island. They know in their heart of hearts those rock jetties are the real solution.
Thank you very much, John.
Anytime, Mayor, no charge.
Thank you. Anyone else?
It starts.
No, when it comes up.
Then reset.
Reset the Sewellometer there.
Yes.
Ed Berger, 9402 Amherst Avenue. There's an old saying that success has many brothers, but failure is an orphan. The Fun Fest was a huge success this weekend, and it was because of the work of Frank's guys and Tony's guys and Dave's guys and everybody else in the city that not only was involved in the planning of it, but was instrumental in the execution of every minute of both days, Saturday and Sunday. So to our volunteers, and there were over 70 of them that ran the rides and ran the events, to all the people in the city that made it possible, to our commissioners who approved it and supported year after year. I thank you on behalf of the business community, and I thank you on behalf of myself. I put a lot of work into it also. It's a great event, and it helps shape the image of who we are as a city, and it reaches out way beyond our boundaries every year, and it reminds people about the wonderful spirit of the people that live here. So thank you very much on behalf of the Business Association, everybody who worked on it. You guys made it as much a possibility as we did. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Good job.
Stop. Reset. Now don't hit start until they come on. There you go.
My name's Lee Diamond. I live at 8702 Monmouth Avenue. And I may have an advantage over the rest of you because I've been to concerts recently. So I won't get too near the mic or try to perform. I enjoyed the Fun Fest, and I volunteered at the Sustainable Margate table, and we had a questionnaire about what people can do to basically help the environment. I didn't actually take the questionnaire, but it related to things about how you can probably reduce your environmental footprint, because as a shore community, we put, for example, too much plastic. Everybody puts too much plastic in the ocean, but I think we're responsible for leading away from that. So I think it's important that we be more conscious, along with other shore communities, to try to take us in a better direction. And it was very difficult to get people to come up to the table. And I realized what was going on as soon as I walked up, and so I started hawking our free reusable bags. But one of the things that it taught me was that we need to have the public more engaged about these issues, and what we're really talking about, in my opinion, from 20 years of studying this, is global warming. And that's a lot of what's driving the situation that we're facing this weekend, because when I grew up in this city in the late 1960s and early 70s, we had 4 or 5 months of winter, and everybody who lives here knows that. Now, I meet a realtor in Starbucks, and he doesn't even want to talk about the fact that we're having 93-degree days in September or whenever. That may have happened in Philadelphia 25 years ago, but I don't think it was happening here. Maybe 80-degree days, but because of the being on the ocean and whatnot, we just didn't experience that kind of weather. And we may have had one warm day in 4 or 5 months, and we had 6 or 10-degree, 12-degree days, day after day after day, for weeks on end. So, the public needs to be educated, and all of our elected leaders from every level of government, in my opinion, needs to do more. But I guess people like us will be out here engaging and urging you to be as proactive as possible. And so as far as the master plan goes, that means more succulent plants, less grass, more attention to buildings, solar developers should be talking to the National Architects Association and builders. Don't put your dumb dormers on top of buildings to make it hard to put solar in. And we need the absorbable sidewalks. We need all these things, part of the master plan, so that we can have a sustainable society.
Thank you very much.
And you're all an important part of it.
Anyone else?
Go ahead, 5.
Please.
She needs a 5 o'clock, it's all.
You're 5 o'clock. Any other public comment? Is there a motion to close public comment?
So moved.
Second.
John?
Mayor Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Amadeo?
Yes.
Commissioner Blumberg?
Yes.
Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Mayor Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Amadeo?
Yes.
Commissioner Blumberg?
Yes.
Thank you all. We'll take a short break and we'll